Joe Rogan just dropped a bombshell that Meghan Markle's team never saw coming, publicly questioning her rumored appearance on a yacht with Prince Andrew. With one line, Rogan reignited years of whispers, turning a buried scandal into a global spotlight Meghan can't silence. And now, the world is watching. Joe Rogan drops the bombshell: Meghan, Andrew, and the yacht photo allegation. It all started with a few calm but cutting words from Joe Rogan. Sitting in his Texas studio, he leaned in and said, "Wasn't there some speculation that Meghan Markle was on Epstein's yacht at one point?" Then came the bomb. Weren't there photos with her and Prince Andrew back in the day? That sentence, quiet, casual, triggered a tidal wave across the internet. Not because it was the first time the rumor had been mentioned, but because it came from Joe Rogan, the most influential podcaster on Earth. The photo in question, according to long-circulating whispers, allegedly shows Meghan Markle in her early 20s on a yacht in Phuket, Thailand, around 2001, the same time and place where Prince Andrew was also reportedly present. This would have been during the height of the Jeffrey Epstein era, before Meghan was famous, and long before she met Prince Harry. Rogan's delivery wasn't speculative. It was surgical. No accusations, just a spotlight on a story that had been ignored by major media. That's what made it dangerous. Immediately after that podcast aired, search engines lit up. Online forums, Reddit threads, TikTok videos, all trying to find that photo, that connection, that missing link. Meghan's team, according to insiders in LA, was blindsided. One Hollywood PR executive reportedly said, "This wasn't supposed to come back, and not like this." The rumor had always been around, but Joe gave it a platform, and suddenly, it wasn't just gossip. It was a serious question, and one with real names. Meghan, Andrew, Epstein, and Thailand attached to it. "People can ignore tabloids," one royal insider said. "They can't ignore Joe Rogan." But the real problem wasn't just the question itself. It was who asked it, and what happens when someone you can't silence starts pulling threads. The Joe Rogan effect. Why this question can't be ignored. When Joe Rogan talks, people don't scroll past. They listen, they react, and then they dig. With over 200 million listeners, his words carry more reach than traditional media networks combined, and he doesn't play by Hollywood rules. Unlike most celebrities, Rogan can't be edited, bought off, or threatened with legal action. He works outside the system, and that's exactly what makes him so dangerous to carefully controlled public figures like Meghan Markle. After raising the yacht question, Rogan didn't stop. He circled back in later episodes, questioning why nobody had ever seriously investigated Meghan's early connections, or why photos from Thailand, 2001, allegedly showing her and Prince Andrew, were never made public. Meghan's PR machine, trained to handle tabloids and royal press, had no playbook for this. As one industry expert said, "When Joe calls something out, you don't get ahead of it. You hang on and hope it passes." But this didn't pass. Because Joe's audience isn't casual, they're engaged. They research. They repost. Within hours, clips were everywhere, titled "Meghan on the Yacht," "Andrew Connection," and "What's She Hiding?" What's worse for Meghan, Joe wasn't making claims. He was asking questions. That makes it nearly impossible to take legal action without drawing more attention to the story. "This guy isn't a gossip rag," said one UK media strategist. "He's the biggest microphone on earth, and he just aimed it straight at Buckingham Palace." Names like Marcus Anderson, Ron Burkle, and Soho House started popping up in related discussions. People were no longer just asking if Meghan was on a yacht. They were questioning her entire entry into elite society. And that brings us to the center of the fire, the actual photo allegation itself. Because according to one longtime investigator, these photos exist, and someone's been keeping them buried. The Thailand yacht, rumor resurfaces, with teeth. Enter Kirby Summers, an author known for her research into elite social networks and her deep dive into the world of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Summers claims she uncovered evidence that unpublished photos exist, showing Meghan Markle aboard a yacht in Phuket, Thailand, in 2001, with Prince Andrew reportedly present at the same event. This wasn't internet gossip. According to Summers, the photos were offered to mainstream media outlets, but never published. She suggests they were actively suppressed due to legal threats and palace pressure. At that time, Meghan was not yet famous. She hadn't joined Suits, hadn't met Harry. Which makes the central question Joe keeps asking even more chilling. How did she even get on that yacht? This was peak Epstein era, a time when Andrew was known to be traveling in private circles filled with billionaires, models, and controversial figures. If Meghan was present at one of those events, it raises serious questions about who brought her there, why she was included, and how deep those early connections went. Summers says the reason these images were never released isn't because they don't exist. It's because they're too dangerous. People don't suppress something that isn't real, she told one interviewer. They suppress what can't be explained. The implication? Meghan didn't stumble into royalty. She may have been circulating among elite power brokers long before Prince Harry ever entered the picture. And that's the narrative Meghan's team doesn't want anyone to look at. Because if you can place her in Andrew's yacht circle during the most controversial chapter of his life, the whole modern fairy tale starts to crumble. But if Meghan's presence on that yacht was real, then the next question becomes, who helped put her there? That answer leads directly to Marcus Anderson, the royal matchmaker whose role in this story is far bigger than anyone imagined. Marcus Anderson, the mysterious matchmaker who changed Meghan's life. To understand how Meghan Markle ended up marrying into the British royal family, you have to understand Marcus Anderson. Anderson isn't just a mutual friend. He's the man who arranged Meghan's introduction to Prince Harry in 2016. But what Joe Rogan and researchers like Kirby Summers keep pointing out is this. Marcus didn't appear out of nowhere. He had been connected to Meghan for years, and his access to elite circles goes all the way back to 2001. That's the same year Meghan was allegedly seen on the yacht in Phuket, Thailand. And guess who was already building a reputation as the global connector for the elite social club Soho House? Marcus Anderson. Anderson's job wasn't just booking tables and making introductions. He was the person who decided who got into which rooms, who met whom, and how those relationships grew behind closed doors. Joe Rogan asks the question nobody else dares to. Was Meghan already being positioned before she even met Harry? If Marcus had been introducing Meghan to power players for over a decade, including possibly Prince Andrew, then her meeting with Harry may not have been romantic chance. It might have been strategic design. Soho House isn't a dating app, Joe quipped. It's a machine for matchmaking power. And Anderson, according to Joe and several researchers, may have seen Meghan as the perfect candidate. American, ambitious, presentable, and well-connected in all the right or wrong places. The bigger implication is that Marcus Anderson wasn't just a mutual friend. He was the handler, the go-between, the one with enough influence to open doors in every direction. And he opened them for Meghan long before anyone knew her name. And that brings us to the club itself, the place where these meetings happened, where privacy is guaranteed, and where rumors are born behind velvet curtains. Soho House. Soho House, the quiet power engine behind the scandal. Soho House sells itself as a private club for artists, creatives, and innovators. But the reality, as many now realize, is much different. It's a place where billionaires meet rising stars behind closed doors. No press, no cameras, no trace. Joe Rogan pulls no punches when talking about it. It's not a bar, it's a filter. It decides who moves up. And it's here where Meghan Markle's connections start getting deeper. Long before she met Harry, Meghan was already a regular at Soho House, attending private events in Toronto, New York, and London. She was often seen with Marcus Anderson, who by that time had risen to the top of the club's global network. But how did a then mid-tier actress from Suits get access to this ultra-select world? That's the question that sticks. Memberships are hard to come by. Guest lists are tight. You don't just walk in. Joe suggests what others won't say out loud. Meghan's presence at Soho House wasn't just random. It was intentional, facilitated, and possibly funded by the very people who use the club to scout and connect. One of those names? Ron Burkle, a billionaire member reportedly tied to social circles overlapping with Epstein and Prince Andrew. Burkle is known for hosting private parties and having long-standing ties to Soho House operations. They're not just hanging out, Rogan said. They're arranging things. That's what those rooms are for. And when you look at Meghan's calendar from those years, the events, the locations, the people, the picture becomes clear. She wasn't just attending. She was networking upwards. Soho House gave her proximity to the people who could take her higher. One of them was Harry. But if Andrew came before him, even in the shadows, that's what makes this story so volatile. And that's why Joe kept digging. Because Meghan's access didn't stop in 2001 or 2016. It followed her into one of the most exclusive party circuits in the world. Yacht Week. The Yacht Week. 2016. Invitation. GQ called it Sodom and Gomorrah at sea. In 2016, Meghan Markle received an invitation to Yacht Week in Croatia, one of the most exclusive party circuits on the planet. This wasn't a casual sailing trip. According to GQ, it was Sodom and Gomorrah at sea, a floating VIP network where wealthy men and rising women mixed under the radar. The event is notorious for what happens off-camera: secret deals, romantic pairings, and unspoken arrangements between elites. Joe Rogan didn't let this slide. How does a cable actress end up on that invite list? He asked. Who made that call? The invite is documented. Meghan's presence there isn't rumor, it's confirmed. The bigger mystery is why. At the time, she wasn't married to a prince. She wasn't royalty. She was just another actress on a mid-budget show. And yet, she was attending an event that even billionaires had to pull strings to enter. The assumption? Someone got her in. Someone powerful. Possibly someone who had already placed her on the map years earlier, back in Thailand. There's also the disturbing overlap. Yacht Week 2016 was filled with guests known to frequent Epstein's social circles. That year, several of the yachts were registered to shell companies connected to known offshore accounts. It's not what happens on the yachts, one researcher told Joe. It's who's on them and why. Joe framed it simply. If Meghan was truly trying to avoid that world, why was she always so close to it? From Phuket to Soho House to Croatia, the pattern stays the same. Closed doors, high society, and connections nobody wants to talk about. But one name nobody can shake: and one connection that changes everything, is Prince Andrew. Because if Meghan knew him before Harry, this becomes more than a scandal. It becomes a complete rewrite of the royal narrative. Prince Andrew, the ghost. Meghan's team can't shake off. Every time this story resurfaces, one name makes it more dangerous than anything else: Prince Andrew. He isn't just a disgraced royal. He's the epicenter of the Epstein scandal, the man who was stripped of duties, titles, and public trust after a series of connections to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So when Joe Rogan asks, did Meghan know Andrew before she met Harry? It's not a throwaway question. It's the one that could unravel everything. Here's what we know. Andrew was frequently seen aboard luxury yachts in places like Phuket, Thailand, during the early 2000s, the exact time Meghan was allegedly photographed at the same kind of party. According to Kirby Summers, there are photos, not viral fakes, but real images held by major media outlets, and they include both Meghan and Andrew. If those photos exist, and Joe believes they do, they aren't just embarrassing. They're toxic. Because Meghan's entire brand, from Hollywood to royalty, has been built on ideas of empowerment, independence, and distance from royal scandals. A link to Andrew, especially during the height of his ties to Epstein, would destroy that. Any woman connected to Andrew gets burned, one former palace advisor told a UK outlet, even by accident. The silence from Meghan's team isn't just about optics, it's about survival. If they acknowledge the question, the next demand will be the photo. If the photo surfaces, the next demand will be an investigation. This isn't just a PR issue. It's a threat to the foundation of Meghan's royal narrative. But if Meghan's presence near Andrew was real, even once, it reframes not just her image. It reframes Prince Harry's entire relationship with her. Prince Harry, the heartbreaking possibility. He was a pawn. Imagine being Prince Harry right now, seeing headlines connect your wife to your disgraced uncle, the man you cut ties with, the man who made your mother's life hell, the man whose scandals forced the palace into silence. And now the world is asking whether Meghan knew him first. Joe Rogan puts it plainly. What if the meeting with Harry wasn't accidental? If Meghan had already been moving in the same elite circles as Andrew, through events like Yacht Week, Soho House, and Thailand trips, then what looked like love at first sight might have been a calculated move. A connection arranged behind the scenes by people like Marcus Anderson. Insiders say Harry has already heard the rumors. A source close to the palace said, "He's shaken. He thought he left the toxicity behind. Now it's following him." Because if this story keeps growing, Harry's image shifts from rebel prince to someone manipulated, isolated, and used. It makes the family feud feel less like a fight for love and more like the result of a strategy Harry never saw coming. What if she played him? A former royal aide reportedly asked. What if it was all engineered? There's no way for Harry to respond publicly. If he defends Meghan, people will say he's in denial. If he stays quiet, the story spirals. He's trapped, emotionally, politically, and personally. And behind the scenes, sources say Harry is rereading old letters from his mother, revisiting family warnings, and asking questions he never thought he'd need to. But the real sting? Meghan won't answer. Not to the public, not even to Joe. And that's silence. That's what's turning questions into belief. The questions that Meghan can't, or won't, answer. Joe Rogan never made an accusation. That's why this story is so powerful. He just asked 5 devastating questions, and Meghan's refusal to answer any of them has only made things worse. Here they are, word for word from his show. Who invited Meghan to these yacht parties before she was famous? How did she afford the lifestyle she was living before Suits made her a name? Why were her early elite connections, like Marcus Anderson, never mentioned in royal interviews? What was her relationship with Soho House's billionaires, people like Ron Burkle? Did she ever meet Prince Andrew before Harry? And if not, why won't she say so? These are fair questions. They're based on documented invites, real names, and publicly verified locations. Yet Meghan's team has said nothing. No denial, no clarification, no legal pushback. Silence is loud, Joe said. When someone won't answer basic questions, people start assuming the worst. What's made this even more damaging is the way the public has responded. People who once defended Meghan are now pausing, rewatching interviews, reanalyzing timelines, wondering if the fairy tale was scripted differently behind the scenes. And Meghan? She's stuck. If she speaks up, she fuels the fire. If she stays quiet, the fire spreads. The questions Joe asked have now been clipped, reposted, and viewed tens of millions of times. They've become headlines on their own, and with no answers in sight, those headlines are starting to look like truths. And now, it's not just about her past. It's about control and the one voice she can't shut down. Because the final blow isn't the question itself, it's that Meghan can't stop the man asking it. Why this story isn't going away, and why Meghan can't stop it. Joe Rogan isn't just another voice in media. He's the platform. His audience isn't niche, it's global. And once he puts a spotlight on something, that spotlight doesn't turn off. It follows the story, digs deeper, spreads wider, and becomes unavoidable. That's exactly what happened when he questioned Meghan Markle's alleged connection to Prince Andrew. He didn't accuse. He didn't state. He simply asked, "Wasn't she seen on a yacht with Prince Andrew?" And that changed everything. Because when a figure like Joe Rogan asks that kind of question, not from a gossip outlet, but from a global platform with 200 million listeners, it turns a buried rumor into a public reckoning. For years, Meghan's entire brand has been built on precision image control. She has relied on curated magazine covers, hand-picked journalists, legal teams trained in aggressive reputation defense, and media platforms that play by the rules. But Joe Rogan doesn't play by those rules. He isn't part of the British press, the Royal Rota, or the Hollywood PR machine. He can't be bought, silenced, or scared off. "I'm just asking what everyone's afraid to ask," he said. And that's the one thing Meghan's team can't stop. Every time her camp tried to ignore the question, it only grew louder. Clips spread, forums lit up, TikToks went viral. And when people saw no response from Meghan, the absence became its own kind of answer. That's the danger of silence in the age of virality. As one digital strategist put it, when millions of people hear a question and nobody answers, it stops being a question. It becomes a belief. Insiders now say Meghan's team considered legal action, but ultimately backed off. Why? Because Rogan didn't accuse her of anything specific. He asked questions. Smart, strategic, deeply researched questions. There's nothing to sue. No claim to challenge. Just a snowball of doubt that's growing larger with every repost, every mention, every silence. Now the story has shifted. It's no longer just about whether Meghan was at a yacht party in Phuket, Thailand, or whether she ever met Prince Andrew before she met Harry. That's the old story. The new story is why no one is allowed to talk about it. That's what's making people nervous. Not the photo, but the silence around it. The minute they tell you what you're not allowed to ask, Rogan said, that's exactly what you need to ask. And so he keeps asking. Podcast after podcast. Clip after clip. The questions keep coming. The views keep rising. The narrative keeps shifting. And Meghan, for the first time since stepping into the royal spotlight, is facing a public conversation she cannot contain. She handled the British press. She took on tabloids. She fought back in courtrooms. She won headlines and lawsuits. But she can't fight Joe Rogan because he isn't making claims. He's handing the mic to the public. And the public is now asking questions Meghan cannot answer. The carefully guarded image, the high-gloss interviews, the palace walkouts. None of it works anymore. Because once someone like Rogan rips open the curtain and millions see a different version of the story, you can't put that version back in the box. The immunity is gone, and the questions are only getting louder. This isn't just another royal headline. When Joe Rogan, the world's most powerful podcaster, questions your past, silence is no longer a strategy. Meghan Markle's alleged connection to Prince Andrew through hidden yacht photos has gone from whispered rumor to viral wildfire. Joe didn't accuse, he asked, and those questions, viewed by hundreds of millions, are now louder than any denial. As the public digs deeper and the photos remain unseen, the pressure builds. Meghan can't sue it away. She can't PR spin this one. Because when Rogan talks, the conversation doesn't end. It explodes. And this is just the beginning.